a playlist original.
All right, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your hosts, Case and Jackson. Keeping things rolling. We recorded our first 2025 episode yesterday on Sunday. It is now Monday, January 6th. And now we're here keeping things rolling pretty well, discussing our top 10 films of 2024 and our most anticipated films of 2025. Going to compare our most anticipated a little bit with kind of how we looked at 2024 and see if there was any of them that made it onto our top 10 list of the year. Are we surprised that some that were really anticipated ended up being not so great? There's one on mine in particular that really stands out that I was looking forward to 2024. But I wanted to ask you, and every year everyone talks about like how was filmed in any given year. What do you think that 2024, based on the movies that you saw in 2024, how did you think it kind of stacked up? Was it a good year for film? Like mediocre? Like what? How do you feel about it?
Overall, I think it was a strong year. I mean, granted, there was a big chunk of the year when I was at school and I just didn't have like the time to, watch movies at the pace I would normally like to. So over the last 3 weeks or so, I've been playing catch up, saw a lot more releases from this year. Unfortunately missed a lot in theaters, which is, sucks, but I did see a lot of great movies in theaters this year, which I was happy about. It was a great year for horror movies, I find. Not such a great great year for like big budgeted studio movies and superhero movies. That's kind of the trend I've noticed continuing into this year. 2025 though has some excited releases ahead of it, but yeah, horror, great year for horror. A lot of movies on my best of list are horror. And I thought it was a solid year. I still have some really acclaimed films that I didn't get to see yet, and no doubt some of them may have made my list if I'd seen them before this episode. But we're at the tail end of the first week of the year, and I think it's a great time for us to look back at 2024 and talk about our favorite films that we've seen. But to make a long answer short, I think it was a good year. How did you feel about cinema in 2024?
Yeah, I thought it was a good year too. That's why I was surprised. I know some people on X that were saying that it wasn't a strong year because they were pointing to like some movies that didn't do that. I think they were really pointing to obvious ones that they thought would be big and are thought would be good, and they just weren't. I mean, I think the Joker sequel is a big one that a lot of people thought would be great, and I think they're kind of missing out on like several movies that came out in 2024 that actually kind of bucked that trend and were really, really good and stood out as really great films. We even got some of them earlier in the year than we normally get. I mean, they are at least two of mine that came out in March. So like that is I think that's something to look at. I mean, I will say I'm glad you said the thing about the big blockbuster comic book movie thing, because it wasn't a great year for comic book movies other than Deadpool and Wolverine, which made a lot of money.
Right.
But for the most part, a lot of them didn't really get great reviews. Some did well, some did very, very poorly. One even closed out the year doing very, very poorly, and that was Kraven the Hunter. So, I mean, I like comic book movies that are done well. I think sometimes any genre needs like a little bit of a timeout to kind of like, hey, like maybe go back to the drawing board, like think about what you can create that will be innovative and will get people excited to see these movies again. I think Marvel is an interesting spot this year because I know Captain America, the one with Anthony Mackie, Brave New World, is coming out soon. There's all these talks about how big its budget has gotten and ballooned like really huge, and they keep saying it's because of poor test screenings and all that stuff. So I don't want that to be the case for that movie, but it doesn't. All the poor test screening kind of rumors have me a little bit worried about that. But then on the other hand, you have Thunderbolts, which could be interesting and would be good for Marvel, and then Fantastic Four could also be a really good.
That's the one I'm most excited to see how that goes, because I think a Fantastic Four introduction in the MCU and it being like a semi-period piece is an interesting play. So I got my eyes on that. Brave New World, definitely in an interesting spot. I heard the other day like what that movie needs to break at the box office to be even, and it's rough. But the trailer, I think paints it harkens back to like the tension and atmosphere of Civil War, where it's like espionage and
Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier,
I like that vibe.
Civil War,
I like that
that's
vibe
been
of
missing from the MCU. So anyway, I don't have any opinion yet on how the movie's going to do, but they are in an interesting spot. And then the other side of the coin, you got DC launching its new universe in July with James Gunn's Superman. So that's exciting for DC fans. So that'll be an interesting second half of the year. And I think they have 2 projects at least coming out in 2025. Do they not? Do they have another one?
I think that might be the only. I know they're
Maybe it is.
filming.
Okay.
I think they're filming Supergirl World of Tomorrow right now,
Okay.
and Jason Momoa just got added to that, so he's playing a
Right.
new
Saw
character within
that.
the
Yeah.
DC. Yeah, so that'll be good. I'm glad you mentioned that too. That'll be I mean, people really like the trailer. It got really good feedback from fans, and so I think everyone will be looking at that because this really does kick off their new DC universe. So I think a lot of people will be paying attention to one, how it's received critically and how it's received financially. So there'll be a lot of room for big budget movies and hopefully even more room for smaller mid-budget movies. I'm looking forward to more breakouts in 2025 too. I love about 2024, like certain movies that I saw like really broke certain people out in the big way. Like Anora really broke out. I mean, I know she's been in other stuff.
Yeah,
Maggie Madison. Maggie Madison has been, and she was in 2022 Scream. She's in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but this movie really broke her out in a really big way. So that's always great to see, like some new person being kind of the darling of award season and having new talent come out of that. Also a good year for, I hate to say this about her because I don't think it's true because she's consistently worked, but a lot of people call it a comeback for Demi Moore, so I guess I'll call it that.
Yeah,
she had a really great year with The Substance, and people are taking those to her again, and that momentum. Actually, I was like hopeful that she can get a nomination. It looks like not only did she get nominated, but some people think that she has a very good shot of winning overall when it's all said and done. And it'll come down between her and Mikey Madison. I mean, they like the narrative of it's a big comeback vehicle for her. Critics like it. It made money, and I mean, a lot of people like that narrative too. Of like, it feels like a movie that really spoke to her because maybe she identified with the whole aging in Hollywood and all that stuff. And there's like that angle of it too. So they like a good narrative like that as well. And I'm not saying that should be why she should win. She's also she's amazing in it.
She is incredible in it. The
so
Substance was a blast.
Yeah. So like seeing stuff like that too in 2024. And I think that's why I thought the year was pretty good because there was a lot of things that really stood out. I'm really excited with the movies that we got, and mine is a mix of some like maybe only one really big budget movie on the list, but the rest of them are kind of a little bit more mid. But I did struggle with one movie in particular. I kept like putting it in the top 10 and then dropping it out. Like it was like it's right like below 10, and I was like, all right. And because I liked it, but I was like, did I like it enough over what I put in the 10 spot? I kept switching it over and over again, but I think I'm cool with leaving it like just outside honorable mention, but still very fun to watch. So how did your like when you're doing your 10? Was it like was it hard for you to put it together? Did you switch things around?
Things have been being switched around. I mean, there was a recent release that is cracked my top 3, so that obviously changed things around. Some have been in the same place since they've come out earlier in the year. One has been in number 1 spot all year pretty much, and then there's been some, like I said, I'm playing catch up with some new releases from this year. So over the last 3 weeks I've seen a couple that have landed in that top 10 list. So yeah, it's fluctuated, and there's even, I know I was just saying to you off camera that maybe 3 or 4 movies after my top 10 really could all have a spot for that 10 spot. A lot of movies on this list I would say I like equally, and there's so many diverse films on the list that it just kind of seems arbitrary like to which one I have on there, but you got to have a list somehow. So but it is always difficult to compose a list, and sometimes I think there's not even any merit in ranking, because who's to say that next time I go to watch that number 1 movie on this list that I won't be more in the mood for that number 5 movie on this list. Like which one did I like more? Who's to say? I don't know. But it is nice to have something like in an order to go back and look at. And it can be frustrating at times, but it's not complete yet. But I mean, for the sake of this episode, it's I'll have 10 to deliver. But I didn't see Anora, and I'm really anticipating that would crack that list. And then The Brutalist is one I haven't seen yet.
That one either.
Yeah, so
I
that'll.
heard it's long.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how there's an intermission in that movie. That is.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is
which
very interesting.
is kind of, I think it's kind of funny. Like that's fair to do that if you really
Yeah.
feel you need to. Um, yeah, I mean, I also was kind of like felt bad like putting certain things like certain movies that I really love, especially at the top of the year, and like having them kind of be in the mid, a little bit below mid on the list. And I was like, oh, I can't give like you put this movie in sixth place. That feels wrong. But I mean, but it's not like it's like any real like worse than what's above it. It's just
No, exactly.
it's a product of
Um,
like the mood and like what you're kind of looking forward to. I guess like it's always going to be changing, and hell, by the time we have this episode, and maybe you'll have seen Anora within like a week, and you're like, well, shit, I probably should have added that.
Probably.
I guess you can also edit your letterbox when you post it if you need to. So to
Yep.
put
I'm sure that'll
certain movies,
happen.
certain movies where they need to go. Um,
Um,
but yeah, I'm really just I'm excited to get into the list and kind of see like what you think about mine and like what you think about yours.
well, you can
Um,
kick it off because I went back and listened to our episode this where we were doing the same thing last January in 2024, and you let me lead. So, without further ado, by all means, take it away. I can't wait to hear what movies you are most looking forward to coming up and your recap of the year. And I want to see, I'm sure we're going to have some overlap, but I
yeah.
know that we'll probably have a few outliers, and I'm excited to see what those are going to be. And I'm sure that you've probably seen a few more than I have. So this might jump some movies up on my radar that I got to see sooner than later too.
All right, and then we're starting with our best of the year, right? Is that what
That's
we're
right.
right? All right. So at number 10, um, I have Wicked at number 10. It now the movie that just missed that list was Deadpool and Wolverine. I
Okay.
had it in there. I had it in there and dropped it out and had it. And then I think Wicked was just an overall a bit better of a film than Deadpool and
And that's
Wolverine.
one
And
that
I
I
was also
haven't
surprised.
seen yet.
And I was also surprised because I have never seen the Broadway musical. I have like no like real connection to it at all. And when
Right.
I saw it the week it came out. It was a extremely packed theater. Like it was full of people. There was a girl sitting next to me who was whisper singing every song. So I mean, I saw it was like, but it was kind of cool to see that kind of affection for it because like everyone in there was clearly a fan or mostly fans of it.
Yep.
And judging from like their reaction to it, it was a solid adaptation for them. I thought it was a pretty good musical. So I haven't seen a movie musical that I really loved in a while. So this was pretty, a good addition to that. Cynthia
Nice.
Erivo was great in it. Ariana Grande was probably my biggest surprise. I know that she has acting background because she was Nickelodeon star back in the day.
Yep.
And but I've never watched those shows. So
Yeah.
I have no like no frame of reference on what she was like back then as an actress. So I've only known her as a singer, and it's crazy because like she's a pure like pop singer. Like her image prior to doing this movie, a little like pop, a little bit hip hop, depending on what she kind of music she's doing. So like this change for this is I guess kind of a great to see because it's so different from what I know her as, and she has amazing comic timing as well. Like that
Hmm.
is what surprised me the most is that she was really funny, and
Okay.
and like you tell like both of the ladies that lead the movie they were they really wanted to be in it. They've had a bunch of interviews where they chased this audition for years and finally got to do it, and critics really loved it. For a while, I thought because it was making so much money, and uh, I thought that it could like be one of those movies that always going to win Best Picture or something like that. I don't know anymore. I think maybe because like some of the it's still making money and all that, but I think some of the like excitement is worn off like a little bit. So now it's kind of like anyone's game when it comes to that. But it is one of those movies I think that voters will really like because like it kind of is like a throwback to like old school like Hollywood musicals and like how they used to really be noticed a lot by Academy voters and all that. So and it's just fun. The music was good. I think I only knew like one or two songs before the movie. I saw the movie. I had
Yeah.
no familiarity with any of the other music, but I don't know. I enjoyed it. Jonathan Bailey was also great in it as well. I don't really know much about him at all. I know he's on Bridgerton and he's done some other stuff, but he was super funny and had good comments on me. Overall, it's a really solid movie. And
Clearly, yeah.
didn't
It's nice
expect.
that we got a decent musical this year because Joker Folie à
Yeah.
Deux was not not
That
did
was not
not
it.
deliver on that front.
That's not it. But I think
No.
now the one thing is, and it's not like it bothered me, but it is 2 hours and 45 minutes, so it's a lot of movie.
Yeah,
So
and it's split into two parts. Yeah, okay.
yeah, so before you see it, just know that
Okay.
that be prepared for a lot of movie, but it doesn't
Good to
like
know.
that. It's not like the pacing's off or anything. It's entertaining throughout, but you kind of feel it a little bit like towards the end, like, oh, this is like it's time to wrap things up. But
Mhm.
yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it and happy to put it in my top 10.
Great.
All right, what about what do you have on your
Uh,
10th spot?
my 10th spot, I've got Alex Garland's Civil War from the first half of the year. It was on my list of most anticipated of that year, and I'm happy to say that it landed in my top 10. It was
Yeah,
not like your conventional war film. Obviously, we know that it follows like the journalistic perspective, and it's sort of a road trip movie to get to Washington, but shot
yeah,
really amazingly. There were some really intense scenes. That Jesse Plemons cameo scene, I think, is one of my favorites from the year, and it was for Alex
scary.
Garland, felt very different sort of project for him to tackle. And
Yeah,
interested too that since this, he's had a trailer for his next movie, which is also centered on war. It's called
yeah,
Warfare. That trailer's come out since, and I'm really excited to see him tackle, because I think, like, I wouldn't say this movie is like an action movie per se. I guess it kind of has some DNA of an action movie, but the sequences, like the firefight sequences and the action sequences, are really helmed well, and I'm excited to see what he does going forward. But yeah, so Civil War is in my 10 spot, and it was just really bleak drama, and yeah, it really worked for me. I know it didn't work for everybody. Some people expected more of a conventional war movie, but and that maybe comes down to how the movie was marketed, but it never threw me for a loop. I was on board from start to finish, and yeah, overall really liked it.
yep. Well, I was trying not to give away my face when you said Civil War was in your 10. Mine's just slightly above yours at number 9. I have Civil War there in
Oh,
the ninth
okay,
spot.
nice. Cool.
I actually was like anticipating as well in this year, and I'm glad it delivered. What I really am happy about though is that I think it could have been a movie that could have easily uh, chosen a side, I guess, and be like a really political film in one way and not the
That's a
other.
good point. Yep.
And I know that some people didn't like that it like played it safe in that regard, but I kind of like that it didn't choose one side over the other and kind of was, you know,
Agreed.
kind of encompass everything. And I think that was like its biggest selling point. Also, the Jesse Plemons thing might be one of my favorite scenes of the year, just based on its intensity and how well it's acted. I remember watching that in the theater. It instantly made you could feel the whole theater get uncomfortable, and it was just quiet. And that's when you know that everyone is just focused and invested in a scene, and like everyone, you could hear like a pin drop in the theater because I think we were all just kind of like shocked by it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I thought it was really good. I was really happy for A24 because it made a lot of money for them, and I know I think it was their most expensive movie that they've produced.
Yeah, that's right.
And I enjoyed it. I mean, I think it's hard sometimes to make movies like that because when when it is leaning in a political way, not necessarily like choosing a side, but it's a political film, it can kind of uh get a little bit of backlash. But I think for the most part, it avoided that. Like I think most people that did see it that enjoyed it, really liked
Yeah.
it. And yeah, and right, also from the earlier part of the year. So always important to not forget some of the movies that came out in February, March, April,
Yeah.
and so on. Because
Exactly.
it is easy to once you're like going through like, especially because like a lot of the war season stuff starts to come out in like September, October, November, December, and then you're like, oh, like you kind of do forget the ones from earlier in the year. But I think that's one that a lot of people should remember. So that's why it's
Exactly.
my
And
nice.
I'm hoping it gets some love come award season.
Yeah.
Um, and number 9 was more of a recent watch, and it's I knew it would be in the top 10 because of how much I liked it. I think there's an argument that I could throw it a little bit higher. I think maybe it's a better quality movie maybe than some others, but just in terms of my enjoyment, my number 9 spot, I have The Substance, which was fantastic.
Oh,
I loved it. It was uh awesome throwback body horror. It feels like a new age Cronenberg movie, and it did
yeah,
not shy away from anything. Margaret Qualley and Demi Moore were fantastic in it. There really wasn't anything. It was lengthy, but I think the pacing was really well. The effects. I mean, this movie was made for I think $17.5 million,
yeah,
and I think all that went into the effects because they were glorious. Especially that finale was
yeah.
just disgusting and
Well,
grotesque in all the right ways.
okay, I was gonna ask you because like I know a lot of people that like that movie is on my list. It's somewhere out. It's higher,
Yep.
but it's on my list.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you because I know people who have seen it that liked it, but were like really or not thrown by like the last 15 minutes or so of it. And
Yep.
when they even when they mention liking it, they say that it got way too bonkers over the top in the end. Was it way too bonkers over the top where it took anything out for you, or were you like, were you all in on what they were doing in that last 15 minutes or so when literally it like everything just it's utter chaos? That's all I'll say for people who haven't seen it.
Yeah, it is utter chaos for sure, and it does feel like separate from the more subtlety throughout the movie. Like it very much feels like a different direction in that last sequence, like where she's like basically exploding all over everybody. But I still like I like the point behind the scene. I think it worked enough for me that it didn't take me out. Obviously, it goes from a relatively quote unquote grounded approach to the messaging to something that's like absolutely over the top and absurdist. But I'm on board with it, and then especially the final shots of Demi Moore's what's left of her character inching towards her star on the Walk of Fame, I thought was very poignant ending. So yeah, I was on board. Really, really liked it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you liked it. For some reason I thought it was gonna be higher on your list, but like I liked other movies more. So
yeah, that's not to say that like again, a lot of these I like equally. It's just a matter of putting a number on them. But the substance was fantastic.
Well, that makes sense. Well, yeah, I'm glad you have it on your list at least, and you guys will be hearing about that movie later down the line on my list. So in my 8th spot, I put in Alien Romulus. Just because I really enjoyed it. I was surprised by how much I really liked it. I mean, I know it was an anticipated movie for both of us this year. It was originally going to be on like a Hulu release, and then they pivoted out of that. Like,
thank God they gave it to the theaters. I went and saw it twice.
Yeah, so like that was a really good change, and thankfully they did, because like I got to screen it in IMAX, and it's just a beautiful looking movie for relatively cheap for that kind of like film. It's not like a big budget movie. They kept the budget pretty low, and I think Fede Alvarez did a good job of combining what was good about Alien and what was good about Aliens, and kind of making it, kind of mixing those two elements together, where it was a good horror film with a lot of tension and atmosphere, but also a solid like action movie as well. And I thought all the actors did a fantastic job, and looking forward to what they do next with the franchise. It was one of those, like, I was thinking, like, I wonder if it would wear off if once I saw it in theaters, but then I watched it again when it came out on digital, and it was still just as good. So that's why I kind of kept it in mind for the list, because it was still just as solid as I remembered it.
Nice. I love too that it pays homage to like some other movies in the franchise that came before it, like Prometheus and Alien Covenant. And it kind of touches on some ideas from that. I think it leaves some open doors to keep exploring that. And I think it's kind of ignited in Ridley Scott desire to continue that storyline, even though I want to see what comes next. And I know there's Fede Alvarez is invested in that. And that movie also inspired him to collaborate with Dan Trachtenberg, and there's talks about an Alien versus Predator, a new film in that, because of this and the movie's success and Dan Trachtenberg's praise. So that it just opened a lot of doors, I think, for the franchise, which, as longtime fans of it, is obviously exciting. And I should have premised this by saying that I also have Alien Romulus in my 8th spot.
There you go. Oh, nice. There you go.
I think I gave it away when you said it, because I was like, oh shoot, I did not expect that. I didn't know if it would be on your list or not, so to have it in the same place is funny. But I was floored. It delivered on all fronts to me. There's a couple moments in the movie where I'm like, I think it's cool because I'm an Alien fan, but like some dialogue borrowed from earlier movies, I think out of context is a little silly, cheesy. But yeah, cheesy, but like fun cheesy because I'm a fan. So I don't really knock the film for it, but overall it gave me everything I wanted as an Alien fan, and it was shot amazingly. That I know the Offspring finale was polarizing to some. I was all on board for it. I thought the design was incredible, and it freaked me out. And it's just what I wanted.
Disturbing image.
Exactly. And I'm really glad that they gave it a chance and released it theatrically, and that it did well. So I'm excited for what's to come with the Alien franchise. But that was the movie that I was just telling you about before we started recording that I forgot to throw on my list. I was looking, I was like, because it's on another list I have on Letterboxd, like my what I saw at the theaters, and I must have just forgot to throw it in there. So this is where I squeezed it in right before we started recording. So Alien, Romulus, and 8 for both of us. I wonder if we'll have anything else in the same spot.
Well, I guess we shall see. I'm with number 7. I went for all you saps out there. It was just a really good movie and well acted. I put We Live in Time. I watched it uh about a month ago.
Okay.
I wanted to see it because I think Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh are really good actors, but I kept avoiding it because I was like, oh, it's gonna be like really sappy, melodramatic. And
Mm,
even though there is a little bit of that in there, it's all saved by like how great their performances are. Their chemistry is like intense, and they work really well together. I'm like Florence Pugh just turned 29, and like she seems like
yep.
she has like a range as an actress that is well beyond her years. Like you would think she's been doing this like much longer, and like she just has a maturity in her work that I don't think even a lot of older actresses have sometimes, and certainly
Mm,
not a lot of younger ones. So um just a really good movie, and like a really good movie about like kind of like life and like and the things you go through when like someone's getting sick, and like there's a lot of things in it that I think you can relate to and pull from. And you might, I mean, I teared up a little bit, and I think if you watched it that you might tear up a little bit. So
yeah.
so know that
I'm
going
a
in.
softie. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't seen this one yet though, so it's not on my list. Spoiler warning, but it'll be one that I definitely catch at some point.
Yeah, definitely worth it. I But maybe watch it alone in case you're worried about shedding a tear.
Yeah, sure
All
thing.
right.
In my 7, I have this is one that I want to kind of flip, but I'm just going to read it off the list that I have it now because I really love this movie. I went back to see it a second time in theaters, and I have Long Legs in number 7, which
Oh,
I
nice.
love from last year, and kind of a sleeper hit. It wasn't on my most anticipated list. I didn't know about it at the time that we made that. I didn't really know about it until the marketing came along, and I hadn't seen any of Oz Perkins' movies at that time, but I've went and seen them all now. And
Yeah.
I got to say, he's definitely one of the great horror directors working right now. One of his next upcoming movie will be on my list for later. But yeah, Long Legs was fantastic. Loved everything about it. Great performance from Nicolas Cage. It's funny in the right spots without really trying to be, I guess, but horrific in some. There's lots to look forward to on a rewatch. Some different little details to catch that you
Yep.
might have missed the first time around. So it has a lot of rewatch value, and I already can't wait. I picked up the Blu-ray the other day, and I can't wait to see it
Oh, nice.
again. Yeah.
Nice. Well, it's on my list somewhere.
Cool. Okay, a little higher,
Not exactly
nice.
here's my
I'll
yeah,
probably
but it's on
regret
there. It's
putting
on
it at
there.
7. I kind of want to I think I could have it at 5, but anyway.
Yeah.
Oh well,
Uh,
that's where it's at.
all right. Well, I'm glad we're connecting on some of the same movies, just some in the same spot, some much lower on yours, some much
Yep.
higher on mine. Um, Number 6, I have A Real Pain, the movie with that Jesse Eisenberg directed. That
I've
he
only
started
heard
with
of this
Kieran Culkin.
recently. Yeah.
It's really really good, and Jesse Eisenberg is a really as a I know he's directed other stuff. I just haven't seen other things that he's directed. But with this story, I thought he handled it really well, and he's good in the movie. But Kieran Culkin is he's getting a lot of the attention in the supporting actor race for the
Okay.
most part, and he is really really good. I mean, it's a road trip movie, but like you have like two cousins who are pretty much like at odds, and like you have to like really be invested in that part of the story. And Kieran Culkin's character isn't entirely likable at first. There's a reason why Jesse Eisenberg's character is so like kind of through with him a bit,
Okay.
but it all kind of builds into like why you understand why they're in that spot as family, and like how this trip can either change them for the better if they allow it to. And it was just really well written and really well acted. And I'm really happy for Kieran Culkin. I mean, I know Succession was a big thing for him, and he won a lot of awards for that. But I'm really curious to see like what his film career might look like after this. Because I know he's been in movies, but he seems like he's breaking out in a much like he's having like another act of his acting career now.
Okay.
And it'll be interesting to see if this results in like more film projects and stuff like that. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I think you would like it too. It's really well written and well acted too. And it has moments where you could get a little weepy, especially if you have complicated relationships with some of your family members. Like that is
Okay.
another thing that really stood out to me. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Cool. One I'll definitely keep an eye out for. I didn't hear about it until I some of the award buzz came
Yeah,
out, and I saw Kieran Culkin was in it, and yeah, so I kept my eye on it. With you giving it your stamp of approval, then I'll make a more of a conscious effort to go seek it out. But how did you? What is it streaming anywhere? Do you know?
it just was released on digital. I can send you a copy of it
Okay.
too. Though. if you want.
Cool.
Yeah,
Great.
same thing with Anora. I can send you that as well.
Oh yeah, that'd be great because I need to get that
Yeah.
in soon.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Um, in my sixth spot, I have another surprise. Didn't know anything about it, that it was even coming out this year. But when I found out that Jeremy Saulnier had directed it, I jumped on it, and that is Rebel Ridge. That movie
I
blew me
didn't see that.
away. Oh, dude, awesome.
Yeah,
And
I heard.
I didn't have much faith in it when I just kind of took it as a Netflix action movie until I saw Jeremy Saulnier, who directed Green Room, which was one of those movies I really was getting into when I kind of at the beginning of like my film loving journey, like back when I was in high school. And then Blue Ruin is another great movie by him. Haven't seen his debut, but he's a director that I haven't heard of or heard from rather in a long time. And so when I saw that he had directed this sleeper Netflix original, I jumped on it and it was so entertaining. It was great, awesome lead performance by the actor's name I can't remember, and then Don Johnson in a villain type
Yeah.
role, and it felt very thematically similar to like First Blood, like Rambo First Blood.
Yeah.
Similar themes at play, just in a different time and different setting, but really great corrupt cop movie and underdog story with some really well helmed close quarter combat action and like not I wouldn't say like gun porn, but some really good like weapons play in it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just a great like the lead character is just very likable from the outset, and you're there's just really good writing that makes you on his side, and there's some twists and turns too, and a lot of great supporting performances. And I saw that back in August on Netflix and went back and resaw. I showed it to my girlfriend like a few weeks ago, and it was an awesome rewatch. So happy that it was on my list. I mean, I kind of think I could interchange it with a couple others on the list, but I knew that it belonged in my top 10 just because how much I enjoyed it. But yeah, check it out. Easy to watch, right on Netflix, and really great action
Yeah.
movie.
You're not the first person to tell me that. I do need to check it out because a lot of people were surprised I didn't watch it. I just didn't know anything really about it. I saw previews and stuff for it, but I didn't know that it was that kind of movie that
Yeah,
hyped people up so much. And like a lot of
yeah,
people I
it
know
was
who've seen it
awesome.
enjoyed it. So yeah, I'll definitely check it out. All right. At number 5, I told you
Cracking
Long
the
Legs was
top five.
close. It was close. It's at Long Legs is at number 5.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. I you know I like you. I mean, I wasn't on my radar either because I feel like the marketing came out of nowhere and they really sold on the whole like mystery, like what is this, like what is this going to be, and I'm glad it like lived up to that. Like this could easily been a movie that was all marketing, and then once we got and saw it, it was like, oh, that wasn't nearly as uh thrilling as like these trailers sold it as. And I love that the trailers never really gave anything away too much. Like there was never really
Right.
like a common like trailer for the film that was like, oh, this is like, yeah, what it's gonna be about exactly. So I'm glad they kept that hidden. I'm glad they kept Nicolas Cage
Yeah,
hidden in the marketing as well
it was a
because
great
um
great choice.
now I know some people have said like some like he was really bonkers and over the top. I guess you can say that. I had like I felt this more when I watched it at home where it was like he came off genuinely more creepy to me even when I watched it at home, like by myself. Like particularly in that opening scene too. Like I don't know why I didn't notice this when I saw it in theaters, but that opening scene where she's like a little girl and like I was watching the film and had no idea that when they're showing like an image of the house, like he's in the background of the shot
And
and like
disappears behind the house.
disappears.
Yeah.
And I didn't
Oh,
notice that and I didn't notice that when I saw that in theaters. So I was watching it at home and I was like, it like legitimately like startled me. And
yeah.
just a really good, like kind of unique take on like I guess a serial killer thriller as well. And
Yep.
I think Oz Perkins showed his hand as being a solid director. I'm really looking forward to what he does with the monkey. I hope that's good. The trailers so far for that are a little bit mysterious too. Like not as mysterious as Longlegs, but not giving too much away there too. And also that Megan Monroe was also really good. I know people complain. We talked about it on the show where some people thought she was like too subdued, but that was just the character. I mean that she was a very
Yeah, I think she nailed the assignment.
yeah, she was a very guarded character because of what we find out later because of the things that happened to her when she was younger and all that. So I thought it was just really solid overall and a really good kudos to Neon who marketed the hell out of it and it paid
They
off and they made a
did.
lot of money, like, a lot of money for them, and I believe it's our highest grossing movie to date. So good on them.
Since you like Long Legs so much, if you haven't seen it yet, I really recommend Oz Perkins' earlier movie, The Black Coat's Daughter. Really good
Okay.
companion piece Longlegs in the sense it's more like not so much serial killer, but
Yeah,
supernatural and really freaky, really atmospheric, very tense, slow burn. But check that out maybe
yeah,
around spooky season. That was a really phenomenal watch. But yeah, Longlegs was undeniably one of my favorite movies of the year. I'm glad that you have it on your list too.
yeah. All right, what do you got next?
Okay, in my cracking the number 5 spot, I've got a long anticipated sequel in George Miller's Furiosa, which really delivered. At the age that he's at, I was just so impressed by what he was able to pull off practically in this movie. I know there's definitely some more CGI in this movie, which still looked for the most part really great than there is in like Fury Road, which was 8 years prior to this. That's why I say that it was a long time coming for this movie, but for what it's worth, it really delivered. And Anya Taylor-Joy was fantastic in this movie too. I really liked Chris Hemsworth villain in this movie, and just some of the action sequences and the chase sequences were, you know, impressive to behold. This was another first half of the year release that I really wanted to keep fresh, and I think it deserved to make my top 10, even though some movies I'm a little bit more excited to talk about because I've seen them more recently. I think this
Yeah,
movie deserves its just desserts. It was incredible. So yeah, that's my number
nice.
5.
Yeah, I know you were really looking forward to that one because I was thinking it was on your anticipated list as well.
It was.
I and I ended up enjoying it. I mean, I remember there was a big thing about like, how I was gonna feel about it because I wasn't like a huge fan of Mad Max Fury Road, but then I had to rewatch it before going to see Furiosa, and I was like, oh well, this is better than I remembered it. I guess I had to see it again, and because all my friends used to hype up Mad Max Fury Road, and I was like, I don't understand why everyone loves it so much, especially when it got all the award nominations. And I can admit when I was wrong. It's much better like watching it recently. And actually, Don Furiosa was really good, and Anya Taylor-Joy was good in it. It deserved a better box office run. They thought. I was
Exactly.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
Oh, and Chris Hemsworth
Same.
is also amazing in it too. I think that's one of the best things. He is so much better when he is playing like unhinged and like it reminds me of that movie Bad Times at El Royale. It wasn't like a great movie, but he was really good in it. He's
Yep.
really good at playing characters like that. So that was fun to watch him do. So I really enjoyed that. I guess at number 4. So this was hard because it's a great movie and a great sci-fi epic. I should have no problem putting it at number 4, but I
Yep.
somehow feel like it's a problem. But it's just other movies I liked a little bit more, and then that's
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
Dune Part 2.
Okay.
Um, and I don't definitely elevated what he did with Dune Part 1. It's unfortunate now. It seems like I still think it has a shot at getting a Best Picture nomination, but it seems like the director chances have like slipped so much in the last few months. Where like other directors and films are getting more attention than this one, and it's a shame because Denis really directed the hell out of it, and it
Yes, he
and it
did.
that this was on my most anticipated list as well, and I really thought
Yep.
like this is going to be like his Return of the King kind of thing, especially like when it comes to Oscars, and still think it has a shot to earn the Best Picture nomination, but it's crazy how it's not really has been as much of the conversation for directing, but I thought Timothy Chalamet like improved on what he did in that first film. Zendaya having more to do proved how good she was
Yep.
that character as well. And I liked some of the newer additions too. Like I thought Florence Pugh was a good new addition. Austin Butler again, kind of proving to be one of the
He was
better actors of his
incredible.
generation. Like
Yep.
not necessarily like a large role by any means. It's like when someone broke down his screen time, it's not like a ton, but
No.
he was so like memorable in it, and you could tell like
Scene
it's another
stealer.
example of him being like invested in his role. So yeah, it was just really from top to bottom what the second part of a story like that should be. It was just bigger and it was better. And I still hope there's an outside chance that he can pull out the best director nomination because he really I
Deserves
don't
it for sure.
yeah. Not saying that some of these smaller movies don't, but it's just I think it's interesting because Josh Brolin said he'll quit acting if he doesn't get nominated if he doesn't get a best director nomination because he'll have
Really.
zero faith in like the industry for ignoring him. But I doubt that's true. But he makes a good point that what's he got to do, I guess, to kind of get
Mm,
their attention. And I don't know. I really enjoyed it, and it was weird putting it because it was so much higher. Even the earlier part of the year, but
for sure.
some other stuff snuck in.
Yeah. I mean, I think this movie coming out in March doesn't help its chances. I think it has a lot of staying power, and people are going to remember how great it is. But I share your worry about other movies kind of sneaking in later in the year and sticking in people's minds a little bit more. But
Yeah,
of course, this was one of those movies that was delayed in 2023 from like a September or October release and got that
right.
March 2024 slot. And I think that may unfortunately impact its chances, but hopefully not. I mean, the nominations still aren't here, so I hope that it gets, it's a claim that it's deserved, because definitely I think
Yeah,
at the least a best director, and I really hope a best picture nom, because this is, I think, one of the greatest sequels, of recent times, maybe ever,
yeah.
and it deserves all the love. But in my number four, I've got something that was, I think, the biggest surprise for me this year, something I didn't see coming at all, and that I really, really loved after I'd seen it, and kind of came from out of nowhere for me, and I missed it while I was away at school. But that was Strange Darling. Really like that
So
by JT Mul.
I liked it too, and it's like slightly below like the 10, like kind of
Yep,
like I might like not dip when Wolverine out of that honorable mention spot. I put that there. I really enjoyed it. I
it was
do. I
so slick.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think what I think I need to watch it again because I think I was so caught up in because it isn't really what you expect, and so
Not at all.
I was so caught up in like, oh, this is what this is, and I was like, did I like it because of that, or was it like really? It was a really good
Mhm.
movie though. I thought the acting was
Felt
really good too.
very Tarantino-esque. I love that it was
Yeah,
like told in six chapters and it was non-linear, and every chapter, when it was presented, flipped some characters on their heads, and now people you were rooting for, you now realize in the context of the story, are not necessarily good or bad. They're maybe have flipped, and it
yeah,
really kept me guessing, and all the way to the end. And the performances by the two leads were incredible. Some cinematography was great. I loved what's his name,
Gallner.
Kyle Gallner as like the
Yeah,
lead male role. I hadn't seen him in anything yet. He really impressed me. I really liked him. And then Willa Fitzgerald as
yeah,
the lead, like female, was great too. And she was all over the place. But yeah, shot
yeah,
very well. Like I said, very felt inspired by Tarantino in a lot of ways, and just
yeah,
really impressed me. And I saw that like maybe a couple weeks ago, and it really, really impressed me. And it jumped into my top 10 and quite high,
yeah,
obviously. Yeah, I really
yeah.
liked it.
Kyle Garner is really good. He's actually a really nice guy too. We actually follow each other on X. So yeah, he's
Oh, no way.
super.
Oh, cool.
He's like a horror movie like mainstay now. He was in like Jennifer's Body. He's in
Saw
the
that he was, yeah,
remake
yeah,
of
yeah, which I haven't seen yet.
he's in he's in the remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street. He was in Smile and Smile 2. Like he's a big horror movie dude, but like honestly, like a really good actor. He deserves to be in a lot more things, and
Hope he
probably be
is.
more noticed than he is. But yeah, and also Willa Fitzgerald. I didn't recognize her at first, but then she was actually on the Scream TV series back in the day on MTV,
Oh, I
and
remember
I
that.
was like,
Yeah, yeah,
oh
yeah.
yeah, she was the lead on that, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what I remember from. And she was, I mean, I won't say like I say like who was better than who in the movie, but she definitely surprised me because I
Yeah.
wasn't really expecting that from her. So yeah, a movie that should have more eyes on it. I mean, I think that they tried to do a lot of groundswell marketing to kind of get the
Hmm.
interest out there, and it didn't really quite break out beyond the horror movie cinephiles that really were seeking it out. Hopefully, it has cult classic written all over. I think though, like
I
down the
think so
line, it could
too.
be something
Yeah.
bigger. Yeah.
And that was my Christmas
Um.
gift from Cam. So I've got that Blu-ray version of it too. So
Oh,
it fits
nice.
nice in my collection. Yeah.
Very cool. I will keep the Zendaya train going at number three. I really thought this was going to be like number one for a long time. It was there for a long time on the list. Um, but it's challengers, and I'm surprised I knocked it down. But
Me
not
too,
a
actually.
detriment at all.
No, three
I
is a
mean,
great spot for that movie.
I think it's funny too because I think when that trailer first came out, I was like, I think I messaged you. I was like, oh, this movie has my name written all over it, and
Yep.
then I'm glad that it like even though the trailer sold something that was I think they tried to sell like the sex and all that stuff more than what the movie really was, and I'm glad it turned out to be much better than that. There was a
Yeah.
deeper like story there and like deeper kind of relationship dynamics than what the trailers were selling. And I think for a lot of people, it showed Zendaya in a completely different light. Some people actually thought like this was her first real like adult performance that she's really given, and I guess I can kind of agree with that. Like it's a very confident performance, and Josh O'Connor and Mike Face are also getting it as well. Like all three of them held their own, and it was really interesting to see that kind of movie from Luca as well, because it seemed like I've seen his other stuff, and this felt very much like a mainstream kind of movie. But I think what it did for him is it shows that he can make kind of these smaller, independent dramas, and then also do something like this. And now his resume is, I mean, which was already kind of on fire, but it's heating up now. He's got a lot of stuff coming out. I haven't seen it yet, but he also had Queer last year as well that got some good
I
reviews
haven't
too.
seen that yet either.
But this is another movie that came out earlier in the year that I feel like the Academy is going to forget about too. I think earlier in the year it had a big shot in several big categories, and now I feel like we're only going to maybe get it in score and possibly screenplay, because that's also getting a few notices, and I think it's a shame, because I thought it was one, like, it is a solid movie and deserves to be more in the conversation, I think.
I completely agree. I also thought the editing of that film was
Yeah, the
fantastic. I
editing,
hope it gets a nod there too.
yeah, but yeah, really
Um,
enjoyed it.
well, this is our second tie because I also have challengers in my two
Oh, there
spot.
you go.
I really like this movie,
You
and I
didn't,
think
you
that
didn't give
goes.
that one away that at all. You
No,
get straight face.
I kept a straight face for that one, but this is a movie that saw early in the year. Was this a March release as well?
Yeah, that's March. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's stayed up there throughout the year. There was a spot right ahead of it that was already locked down before this movie came out, but I didn't change how I felt about this movie all throughout the year. Really liked it. I have only seen it that one time in theaters, but I'm probably due for that rewatch. Maybe depending on what I have to get in post Oscar nominations, if I make the time, I'll try and get a rewatch of this in there. But this was really the Zendaya performance that I had appreciated her acting talents before, but besides Dune and Spider-Man, I just hadn't seen a lot of her, but
yeah,
I loved her in this. Thought she was incredible, and then her two supporting male co-stars blew me away as well. And then that score by
yeah.
Atticus Ross and who's his partner there from Nine Inch Nails,
Oh,
Trent
Trent Reznor.
Reznor.
Yeah,
That which I know that it won an award last night, so very happy for them. Yeah,
yeah.
incredible movie. Really liked it. Solid number 3 spot.
Man, if they take a EDM techno score all the way to the Oscars and win, that would be
That would
very
be really
exciting
crazy.
to see.
Yeah,
Like, that is like not a traditional movie score at all, but it
no.
adds like so much intensity to like most of the scenes it's featured in, especially the tennis scenes. Like, yeah, and that is not what you really would expect from a movie like that, to have that kind of score. Like when I saw it in theaters and that first big number kicked in, I was like, oh, this is what we're dealing with. And like also, it also shows how diverse Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross are as composers. Like I mean, be familiar with them for like The Social Network and films like that, and like all
Mhm.
their scores sound different,
Yeah, they are really
and,
talented musicians.
and very unique. So yeah, I was impressed by it, and I don't know. I hope they don't forget about it. It's so I don't like the whole like end of the year or early in the year debate that kind of comes with movies. As like it's not that hard. It's your job to remember them and seek them out again. Like if you're a voter,
Yep.
but people honestly really have like short term memories. Sometimes they're like, oh yeah, that came out this year. Like, oops, I forgot, and that's unfortunate. But looking forward.
Oh well.
Uh, I guess number two is a recent watch, and that would be and it was on I guess both of our most anticipated list last year. We were anticipating it going back to we can't wait until Christmas Day of 2024.
Yep.
And that would be Nosferatu. It was I think I wouldn't even say exceeded my expectations, but it was right where I thought it would be. I think I mentioned yesterday, like
I
there's certain movies
agree.
you're going to be excited about, and how uh, you just have a good feeling of what it's going to be, and I'm glad that feeling was realized for myself. We talked about it on the show yesterday that we recorded. It's just visually stunning. It's expertly directed, and the acting is fantastic, and it really I mean uh, like I mentioned yesterday, to see how Robert Eggers directed that with so much confidence, because he clearly loves that source material. That showed on screen. Also, I love that what he can do with. I know it's going to sound people that really follows the movies a lot, but like $50 million might sound like a lot to a lot of people who don't follow this stuff, but like that's really
Hmm.
not a huge budget to work with for a lot of movies. That's considered like mid, and
Yep.
every bit of that coin was on screen and you could see it. And I really like when you can make your movie look more expensive than a $50 million film. That is amazing to me. So I loved every aspect of it, and glad it cracked so high. And I'm glad I saw it before the year ended.
Yes, me too. I won't be able to add much to that because I know we just poured our thoughts of that movie into our episode yesterday. So I'll leave it at that. But Nosferatu is also my second spot. It
Oh, nice.
completely delivered. I had a feeling it would be like my most beloved movie of the year. Happy to have it in my number 2 spot. And like you said, it just delivered. I knew going in how much I would like it, and I'm just happy that Robert Eggers, delivered a fourth hit. Something that can't wait to rewatch. I've already seen it 2 times in theaters, and yeah, was very impressed with it.
Yeah.
And that leaves number 1 favorite movie of the year.
All right, full disclosure,
Trying to guess.
I cheated
Okay.
for this. Not full disclosure because I couldn't. Because I think what ended up happening was seeing Nosferatu later in the year, right? So this was like a little after Christmas, and then I had how the list was going to go, and I was like, oh no, I don't want to put either one of these films down too far, and I couldn't pick between like which one I actually liked the most.
Okay.
As a number 1 for the year. So I definitely tied it up, but it's our show, so we can do whatever we want.
Yeah, that's right.
And because I couldn't between which movie I enjoyed the most this year, and I'm going to tie it up and give it to The Substance and to Anora because I couldn't pick between the two of them. The Substance, you already had it on your list earlier, and
Yep.
I really heard about all the things about the movie when it was like had a festival run and like it was getting good notices from that, and then I'm like, oh, it's like a body horror satire. I'm like, how is that gonna play, and like, is it gonna get? But then like it's getting like really like a lot of attention, like not just as a horror film, but as a smart, well written and directed film. And once I finally got to watch it at home, I'm bummed I didn't get to see it in theaters because it feels like from what I heard from people who have. The experience of seeing it with a crowd was very fun, and because people were really into it, particularly, we talked about the last 15-20 minutes of the movie or so, like really made a packed theater like go crazy. But I loved everything about how, like, first of all, it's a beautiful film. It should get more. I think it is going to get a lot of awards attention in other categories, but the cinematography is great. The editing is amazing. Like this is a $17.5 million movie, like you mentioned, and it looks slow. It looks so clean. Like like everything about it is so clean. And honestly, too, like the sound design and sound editing was really good as well. And then direction and script was just really smart because it is more than what that last 15-20 minutes is. It's a very smart film about, like we mentioned earlier, how the effects of like aging in Hollywood and what that means, especially for women, and the pressure they feel to maintain their beauty, especially when someone's looking for the next hot younger model to replace them, and like it's not like those stories haven't been told before. It's just that there's ways to like kind of flip them on their head and like make them more interesting, and to kind of do it in this kind of really interesting way. And also it's also puts in some moral question too. Like when I'm watching it, and it might be easier for women to answer this, but I was like, if I was in someone's position like that and this thing was presented to me to perhaps in my mind like maybe save my career and like whatever, like would you do it? And I think that's what really good thing about the film. It makes you question like how far would you go, and then like the messaging too being like she it doesn't end up being particularly happy and fulfilled once it gets out of hand. And like and I love what they say in the movie that like they're one, like even though they're split, like they are one. And like just because like one's older and one's younger, and like they're trying to present as two different personalities, like that whatever she becomes as a younger version of herself is still very much a part of her, and was always and it will always kind of be there no matter how much older she got. And like that's the kind of lesson that she maybe should have learned before she did all that stuff. And I'm like I told you too, like I think there's always like someone during award season where you want to root for them and see how far they go. And I mentioned to you before, it's Demi Moore, and I really hope that she does take this all the way, because she had mentioned in her speech at the Globe, she's been doing this for 45 years. The Golden Globe win for her last night was her first acting award win ever. Um,
Jeez.
and she, you know, like I said, she's worked consistently, but she was a bigger staple in like late '80s, early '90s, kind of like into the maybe early 2000s a bit. Like, but she was known more as a popcorn actress. She was in a lot of movies that made a lot of money, but she wasn't really known for
I
like
see.
critical acclaim and stuff like that. And she's finally uh, getting it, and it's really nice to see. And also Margaret Qualley, I'm glad she's getting the attention too, because I don't think the movie works as well without her too. She really
Right.
does a really solid job.
Very
And
symbiotic performance.
yeah, and with Anora, I was just surprised by it. Like I knew I wanted to see it. My little brother was actually the one that suggested we see it. I didn't even know that was on his radar because it's a
Oh,
smaller independent movie and released by Neon, who we had one of their other films on our list as well. And um, I kid you not, man, I wish you could see it in the theater. I know I think it's theatrical run is pretty much over, but it ended up being because it's really funny, and I was surprised about I nearly pissed my pants laughing during like
really?
there is the midsection of this movie where things get like crazy and a bit out of hand. Is I don't know how any of them kept straight faces shooting some of those scenes. It was
Okay.
just
I did not
probably
expect that from it.
some of the funniest stuff I've seen. And Maggie Madison she's a firecracker. Like this is a like I said, it feels weird to say like a Star is Born kind of performance, and she's been in other stuff, but I think this
Okay.
is making people see her in a much different light, and she's probably going to get a lot of work. I know she said like I think she's just enjoying the kind of uh the shine that's coming from this right now because she doesn't have anything lined up next yet, but I'm pretty sure she
Okay.
will after this. And I know I mentioned how funny it is and all that stuff, but what is really good about the movie is that before it ends, like it has a tonal shift that could have been very jarring if it wasn't done right. And it goes from being really, really funny to having a real serious moment that is probably the best scene in the movie. And it kind of defines like who her character is and why she does the thing that she does. And like it's perfectly sealed up and like that one moment before the movie ends. And I was happy that that was in there and that it didn't feel like out of place considering how a lot of the movie is more humor based. But yeah, it just really well written and well acted and directed. I think I need to watch more of his movies because I know I've seen the Florida Project, but it's been a
I
while, I
haven't
guess,
seen
since I
any
watched
of Sean Baker's movies, and I all of his last
it.
three movies I think have garnered significant awards attention. I
Yeah,
don't know how they keep escaping me, but I really got to see that and Red Rocket I think is his from a
yeah,
couple years
yeah,
ago. Got to see that.
yeah. And there is a lot of there's a lot of nudity in the movie. There's a lot of sex in the movie. That but it's not some might think it's gratuitous, but it is a part of what I mean because she plays a stripper, so there's a part of that world in it. So that's going to
Right.
be there. I know there was a big deal that she requested not to have an intimacy coordinator on set. She trusted her co-star and her director and didn't really want to have one. That was a big bone of contention from people who think they should be on there at all times because it's not just about the leads, it's about the extras and other people on set that get uncomfortable filming those scenes too, or being around for
Okay.
those scenes. But I mean, she had the confidence to do it and felt comfortable in her environment and felt comfortable with her immediate co-star who she invested in. He's very respectful of her, and director seems very respectful of her as well. So I don't think anyone should make a big deal out of that. She owned it. It was her choice. No one made her do it. So here's that. I do
Okay.
love that
Neat.
he cast her after seeing her in Scream 2022. I think it's great that that's where it came from.
Cool.
That is what inspired that. So yeah, even appearing in like the fifth Scream movie can lead to your potential Oscar winning moment. So there you go.
That's wonderful. I know I really got to see that. That's high on my list, and I'm anticipating
Yeah,
lots of awards nominations for it. So that will be an imminent watch.
yep. I'll send you all those
But
too, by the way.
appreciate that. So just wrapping up the list real quick. You covered it earlier, but in my number one spot since March, I've got Dune Part Two from Denis Villeneuve. No surprise there. Loved it since I saw it. Again, another movie I returned to see. I think this is one that I've seen three times. I saw it twice in theaters, and I'm
Oh,
pretty
nice.
sure I rented it once it came available on digital and showed a buddy. So yeah, that was fantastic. No secret there. Loved it. Knew I would love it, and it's not changed. I think I do like it is pretty like similar, like how much I enjoyed it compared to Nosferatu. But I think like this movie, I would give the edge to with it being a sequel and that pressure that it has to maintain that story. And then Austin Butler and Zendaya's performances, I think, really added to that too. And
Yeah,
Hans Zimmer's score again coming back and innovating was just incredible. And and then the success of this garnered that part 3 of Dune Messiah from Denis Villeneuve, which is in development too, which is something even more to get excited about. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was my number 1 film of the last year, and another
And
one that was on the
guys,
list.
he kept his word. I pretty much since he messaged me after seeing that movie when it opened, gave me an impression that it'd be hard to top that as his top movie of the year. And if I so it's been there pretty much since he saw
Yeah,
it back in March. So kudos for consistency. I mean, like you were like, nah, this you couldn't think of anything. I think you mentioned like I can't think of what would knock it out. And if it did, I'd be really surprised. And yeah, so you've had your number 1 film since March. So
for
that's
most
awesome.
of the year. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There you go. That's awesome, dude. Yeah.
yeah.
That's our
It's a really
list, guys.
solid year. List pretty similar, honestly. A lot of overlap there, and a couple ties.
That happens a
Pretty fun
lot,
to see.
dude.
It does.
Now, now there are some movies that we anticipated for 2024 that you will notice were not in our top 10. Are
Yep.
there's some of them I don't even think would be. I don't even know if I would honorable mention them. I know Joker Folly Do is a big one that I had
Yep.
on my list, and
Same here.
did not like it at all. I appreciate the big swings, and I will always give filmmakers credits for taking them. It just doesn't always work, and I don't think this really worked per se. Acting and all that was fine. I thought Lady Gaga was good in it, but like kind of underused it seemed like compared to what I thought she would be in the movie. And Joaquin Phoenix was good. I mean, it's crazy because it was like he won Best Actor for playing the same part, but it's not that he was like bad in the movie at all. It just he would have never. It just felt so disconnected from what that first movie was.
Mhm.
And honestly, it's honestly to me made a lot of that first movie feel insignificant because of what was happening in the second one. So I was like, they can't all be winners. Gladiator 2 was another one I anticipated, and like I not that I didn't like it, it was entertaining, but I it's in no way like Ridley Scott's first film. So that was another one that I really was looking forward to and did not like it. It was have you seen it yet actually?
I've not actually. No, that was one of the 2 main ones from my most anticipated of last year that I didn't end up seeing. Mickey 17 being one that was postponed coming out.
I got moved.
Yeah,
Which,
exactly.
which
So
is
that's why that doesn't really count.
yeah.
And another one being one that I really anticipate enjoying, but just didn't make the time to see yet, and that was Rose Glass's Love Lies Bleeding. So that
Bleeding,
I've
another
not
one,
seen.
yeah.
Yeah, other than
Um,
that, I've seen everything, and most of the ones that I was anticipated for made my top 10 list.
so yeah, and also even though there were some horror films on our list, we had like Alien Romulus and the Substance, and you had, I guess, Strange Darling would be considered a horror movie too. It was
Yep.
a really great year for it. I know like some of them didn't crack my top 10, but like I would Strange Darling was solid. Smile 2 was a solid sequel as well. I thought it was
Yep.
really well done, and Naomi Scott killed it in her role. Like I think in any other universe, that role would be getting much more attention, like awards wise, because it was really, really good. But that is a pure horror film, and then sometimes they don't. The Academy is too
Yeah.
like stuffy to really acknowledge a horror movie like that, unless it's like a satire and it's smart, or it's like a psychological thriller.
Something different about it. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. You know, horror movies really did shine this year. Like we had some like Long Legs, I guess would be considered a horror film, or you could call it thriller.
I
Depending on
consider it horror for
and
sure.
then of
And then a
course,
couple others worth shouting out to Oddity and Heretic, both some really
oh
great, and
yeah, Heretic was
they're on my
good. Yeah,
yep, saw that on New Year's Day.
yeah,
Really liked it. Just didn't crack my top 10, but it's on my best of the year list on Letterboxd
yeah. My issue with Heretic, I actually really did like it. Hugh Grant, probably some of the best stuff he's done like
in
ever.
a long time.
Um,
Yeah,
I liked the first 2 acts more than I liked the third act because
agreed.
I thought the build up was so good, and then I think like the overall like it didn't completely stick the landing. I'm not with the ending and everything was bad. I was like I think I don't know what I was expecting from how smart those first 2 acts were, and I felt like the third act felt more kind of by the numbers a bit, but
Hmm.
still a really good movie. I really enjoyed it, and I need to see the other one. She said was it Oddity?
Oddity. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I haven't
dude,
seen I haven't seen I haven't
that
seen it.
was spectacular. Great blend of supernatural horror and I don't know how you even what the right word would be for it, but like human on human horror, I guess. Like
Yeah,
thriller, I guess, maybe.
yeah,
Like supernatural horror and just like regular horror that it mashes really well. And
yeah.
very spooky to the last shot. Really great horror movie from
Yeah.
this year. And Terrifier 3, of course, awesome
Yeah, oh yeah,
horror
also
movie from
fun.
this year.
Also a
Oh
lot of
my
fun.
God, that was a lot. That was a
And
blast.
probably one of my favorite industry stories of the year to see what that franchise was, which is like, it was funded like pretty much like through a Kickstarter program, and that's how
Yeah,
that
$2
franchise
million.
began. Yeah,
Yeah,
and now it you know it had no studio backing for this third movie. This was all released kind of independently, and it made a fuck ton of money. Probably one of the more successful movies of the year based on like its budget compared to like what it ended up making.
yep.
Uh, I think
And
close to $80 million like worldwide, which is like
highest
insane.
grossing unrated movie of all time. I think it
Unrated
has
like
that
too,
title
yeah.
now. Yeah,
Yep. So also might be, another unconventional Christmas favorite. It only had like it only came out last year, so I think it needs a little bit more time to be added to mine, but I'm sure it will be added to that list at some
agreed.
point.
Yeah.
But yeah, love to see how successful that was. And also, I will eat crow on this one. I actually liked the remake of Speaking No Evil. I thought it was gonna be awful because
Okay.
the trailers were
Still haven't
not
seen
good.
it. No.
Um, and it you're like, no, not at all. It is an Americanized remake for sure. Like where it kind of diverts is in the climax and how it ends. They're a little braver, over there, like overseas when it comes to horror movies, than we are. Like they will go for a bleak ending, and we kind of are like, oh, we don't really like bleak endings here. Like they don't think they sell as well. So that was one big change. But honestly, the change worked for what this movie was, and I want to eat crow on that as far as because I said like this doesn't look. One, it's too soon to remake it,
Right. Yeah.
and then two, the trailers I thought they weren't good. Like, it didn't really sell it as anything really different, and it gave away a lot. But ended up being pretty good. And James McAvoy was great in it. Acting was solid. I don't, I'm willing to admit when I was wrong because I really did not want to even see it, and it turned out to be pretty good on that end. But yeah, I guess like we were looking ahead to like 2025 or in 2025 as far as the movies that we're
Yep.
gonna like looking forward to. This isn't so much us like numbering them like this and that. I don't really have it in like any of them in order of like which ones I'm looking forward to the most, by any means. Um, but it will be interesting to see what will still either be on our top 10 list like once the year is up. If we will be like so thrilled by some of these or so bone crushingly disappointed by the time we see them.
I
Um,
have good hopes for all of the movies on my list. Like there's some that I just can't anticipate not delivering, and a lot of talented directors coming out with movies this year.
yeah.
I'll let you take the reins and go through your list first. If you want to go through all the ones that you're anticipating, and I'll follow up with my list. I'm sure there could be some overlap there too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
take it away.
I will say I'm looking forward, and I'm actually seeing this one next week at a press screening. But Wolfman, I'm really looking forward to. I'm
Me
really
too.
looking forward to seeing what they do with that. The trailers have been really good so far. Like, not giving away too much of like the transformation or anything like stuff like that. They're all very like subtle, pretty good teaser trailers. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Are you worried about it being a January release?
Uh Somewhat. I mean, sometimes
Somewhat. Me
that's not
too.
sometimes that's not always bad because like Megan came out in January and ended up being pretty
Yep.
good. I know that's a completely different horror movie, but like it was decent.
Yep.
So like I'm looking forward to that one. I'll keep it going with the horror a little bit. I'm looking forward to 28 years later. Or apparently that trailer broke records for a horror movie. It came or at least It Chapter 2 has the most views in 24 hours. I think it was like 90 million views in 24 hours. And this trailer was in like the 65 million range in 24 hours.
Oh wow. Okay.
So it seems like people are really looking forward to it. I know we mentioned that we were kind of nervous about the whole, oh, it's a planned trilogy. Why can't they just write one movie and then see how that goes?
Right.
But it seems like they might have like a well-oiled thing going on because I know Nia DaCosta is directing the second installment, and that has a release date as well. That'll be I think in 2026. So like they seem to be hiring people that like, hey, like this is what we did here, and here's how where you need to pick it up from, and so there's like an honest transition from like film to film, and not Star Wars sequel trilogy mistake where it's like, oh no, you guys
Right.
just wing it and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that as well. There's another movie, Sinners, that Michael B. Jordan is in, and
Ryan
Ryan
Coogler.
Coogler is directing it, and the trailers for that look, it looks very interesting. It's like an interesting, like kind of period horror movie piece. I'm like really
Yeah,
interested in seeing
I'm
what they do
intrigued
with
by
that.
that.
So looking forward to that as well. Um, on the superhero front, Fantastic Four, I'm looking forward to. I think I'm more of a Marvel guy than you for sure. So I still have some faith in like what can be
Yep.
done if they get it right. That of the Marvel releases, I'm looking forward to that one the most. Now I do want to see Thunderbolts, but I want to just pick one, and
Okay.
Fantastic Four is probably the one I'm looking forward to the most. And based on this cast too, which I think will be
Yeah, the cast is great.
pretty good. And then I'm looking forward to Superman only because it has to be because I want to know if James Gunn can course correct years of bad movies from like the DCEU. I know one movie isn't like should be enough to maybe determine if that's the case, but like it's a big one, and it's usually one of the DC's most notable characters, and um, I'm hoping for the best with it, and I have a lot of faith in him though because he's really good at directing these movies, and he did a great job. He's probably directed some of the better standalone movies for Marvel with the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy.
Yep.
So there's faith in that, and then also that he's running these or co-running DC Studios, so he has like the creative control there, and he can oversee a lot of the creativity of not just his film but like all the other projects. So I'm looking forward to like what that entails down the line.
Agreed.
Hopefully it comes out this year, but I'm looking forward to Mickey 17. I hope I don't have to knock it out again because it hasn't been released. I want to know what Bong Joon-ho's going to come up with next, and like this is a guy who directed the Oscar-winning Parasite, and that movie was
Which I just rewatched.
So great.
Yeah.
Such a great movie. Such a great movie. I'm still concerned that it's been moved around so much.
I know. I don't like that. I do
and
not like that.
I can't tell if that's a quality issue or if it's we can't tell which month it'll work better in. But I'm hoping it's more of they can't tell which month it'll work better in rather than like it being the case. And I know its new release date is in April, and oddly enough, it took the release date of another film that I'm looking forward to only because I want to know what they do with it. It's the Michael Jackson biopic that got moved to, I think I got moved to October, where Mickey's. So I'm looking forward to it only because Michael Jackson, I grew up listening to his music,
Michael
one of my
Jackson,
favorite artists. Yeah. Also the fact that they have like the full like usage of his music catalog, which is why the budget is $200 million plus, and that's very, very big for a musical biopic. But he has a healthy catalog of music, and I think they said they're using upwards of like 35 of his songs in the movie. So that's really cool. Antoine Fuqua's also directing it, so I have faith in that. And it seems like they are investing in getting the story right. His nephew Jafar Jackson is playing him, so I'm looking forward to seeing like what that will entail. They say they're not going to shy away from talking about the more like sordid aspects of his life, and like and that is one area where I think it could go wrong because his family is also, they have creative control too. So I'm wondering how much they'll allow them to really go into the more, and as much as everyone loved him as a musician, he was a very troubled guy, and he had a lot of stuff that kind of went on in his life. So if they portray that honestly, then I will appreciate the movie even more if they do that. I don't want to sugarcoat. I don't want to sugarcoat it Bohemian Rhapsody biopic where that was PG-13, definitely should have been rated R, and I think they just kind of cherry picked aspects of Freddie Mercury's life and gave us what they gave us, and like I really don't love that movie as much as maybe other people did, even though it made a lot of money. So I'm hoping the Michael biopic does something a little bit better than that. And then I have the Paul Thomas Anderson movie that you mentioned. Thank you for reminding me, with Leonardo DiCaprio and Regina Hall. Like I don't really, you don't even know what it's about, because I don't even know if I looked up what it might be about, or if it's like if they revealed that at all yet.
I from what I understand, it's something to like, I know very loose threads about what it is, and it's something about like Leonardo's playing this kind of like hippie, trippy kind of character that's like on the run from the law, and I don't know much more beyond that, but it's PTA. I think the working title for a while, I don't know if it's still this, but it was operating under the title of Battle of Bacton Cross, which I don't know if that even is, or if that's just was just a working title temporarily while they figured something else out. But that's really looking forward to that too.
Yeah. And then just because I just want to see how it's wrapped up, because I had never seen the Broadway musical and I just saw the movie in theaters, I'm looking forward to Wicked Part 2, because I would love to see how that story wraps up, because I have no idea really. So I have no connection to the. I mean, of course, that story we know how that wraps up, but I want to know how they really finish things off with the musical version, and also
And
be
they'll be
interesting to
adding
see
some
if
original songs too,
songs.
which will
Yeah,
be
yeah,
exciting. Yeah.
and it'll also be interesting to see if like Wicked Part Two gets the same amount of awards attention as this movie's getting this time in November of this year, and I guess right now I can end it with I just because the trailers have been so good and it's been a very successful franchise and I love it. Really excited to see what they do with Mission Impossible Final Reckoning.
Yep.
So that trailer that has been circulating the most like in the last like couple months is a really good trailer. And
When's that due to come out? Do you know?
it's the summer, I
Oh,
believe
okay.
it's
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, it's a summer, and I wonder even with the title like Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, because this was originally supposed to be like a Dead Reckoning Part Two, and they dropped that.
Right.
Is this? What does this mean? This is the final Mission Impossible movie. Tom Cruise has said he wants to make these movies well into
Yeah,
his 80s. Which I was like, okay.
which is directly in conflict to what the director has been saying about how it's
Yeah,
time to maybe wrap
wrap
things
it
up.
up.
But
Yeah,
Tom Cruise is not interested in that, so I'm interested to see who's going to win that over.
yeah. There's also the rumor mill of him possibly passing the torch to someone else. They mentioned Glenn Powell. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't even know how much I like that idea, but all good things have to come to an end, and this is like, and if this is it, then that he had a really good run. Like if you go back and look at the Mission Impossible franchise back when that first movie came out, there's no way I would have thought that there'd be this many movies in this franchise at all, and
No.
and the fact that they've gotten like better in a lot of ways, it also is impressive. So, yeah, looking forward to that one. So that's kind of where I'll wrap my part of it up.
Okay. Great way to end it off. I also have that. I'll just cover because there's a few overlap movies there, but I have Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. Very much looking forward to that as well. I'm on the camp that I do kind of hope for a solid conclusion to this series. I would hate to see it kind of, they them keep going and overdo it. Like this is a lot of
Yeah,
entries in the series, and they've all been progressively better for the most part, or at least on par with each other. So I'm okay with the series wrapping up. But I guess I'll be in the seat until it's proven otherwise. But very much looking forward to that. I also have Paul Thomas Anderson's movie on my list, as well as Wolfman, which I'll be excited to hear your review of. That's one I won't let much time go. I'm going to hopefully see that in theaters here whenever that. I think it's like mid month that comes out.
yeah.
Or you say you're seeing that
Yeah. I'm seeing
this
on the
week?
13th. Yeah,
Oh, 13. Okay.
yeah. So a few days early. Yeah.
28 years later, definitely since that trailer, it's got high
Yeah.
on my list of anticipated movies. I kind of forgot about that movie being in production, and now that we got some footage and that cast looks
Yeah.
incredible. So very much looking forward to that. And then other than that, we didn't have much overlap, but some movies that the one I think that if I had to put a number one spot, I'm really looking forward to Joseph Kosinski's F1 with Brad Pitt.
Oh,
That
forgot
looks
about
great.
that.
Really
Also very
slick
expensive heroin.
teaser. Very what,
Also
sorry?
very also very, very expensive, I heard too.
Yeah, that does cause some concern, but I have no doubts as the quality of that movie, especially what he was able to do with Top Gun Maverick and to film those sequences with the jets. To see him film like in Formula One and Formula Two cars looks great.
Yeah.
The teaser trailer is enough to get me interested, and it didn't really reveal anything about the plot, which I love. And there's a great cast too, and Brad Pitt in the lead role. Gonna watch whatever that is. Um, Guillermo del Toro's got a Frankenstein adaptation coming out this year,
Oh,
which
that's
seems like
right.
a match made in heaven for that source material. So I cannot wait to see what he
It's a
does with that.
Netflix release, right?
It is, yes, which is like he must have signed some significant picture deal with Netflix. So his last few movies have been Netflix
With them.
movies, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. But yeah, really looking forward to that. Don't know when it comes out, but can't wait for that. We've got Dan Trachtenberg's Predator Badlands. I think he's directing it, is he not?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
he is.
him?
Yeah.
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 That's coming out later in the year, so really excited to see that. And it's got Dakota Fanning or Elle
Elle
Fanning.
Fanning.
Elle
Yeah,
Fanning, yes. I think
it's a sister,
sisters or
yeah.
cousins. Sisters. Okay,
Sisters. Yep. Yeah.
yeah. Really excited to see that, and I don't think there's been any promo material for that yet. So what I
No.
know about that is very limited, but just excited to have another Predator movie. Um, Gavin O'Connor is returning to do a sequel to The Accountant, which oddly enough, like didn't really know that I wanted a sequel to that movie because it's been 9 years since that came out. But it's got the big three stars are all returning, and J.K. Simmons, Ben Affleck, and John Bernthal. Gavin O'Connor is directing again, and I really think it's a solid movie from that year. Seen it a
Yeah.
handful of times, so really excited. And it's rated R, and it's at a slick 1 hour 30 minutes right now, and that is expected April 25th. So hopefully we get a
So
trailer
pretty
for
soon.
that
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
And then moving on to the last few, Oz Perkins the Monkey. That's a Stephen King adaptation produced by James
Yeah.
Wan, directed by Perkins, who's fresh off Longlegs. The trailers look great.
Yeah. I
Theo
guess I should throw
James.
that in there too. Yeah.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. That trailer was very devious and some great scares hopefully coming our way from that. And then finally, I've got Darren Aronofsky has a movie coming out this year that I didn't know anything
Oh.
about. This is his what he's done right after The Whale. It's called Caught Stealing, and I guess it kind of
Oh, the
circle.
Austin Butler one, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which I
Yeah.
heard
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and that caught my attention. So I think it
Yeah.
centers around like a baseball player that kind of gets caught up in the criminal underworld of
Yeah.
1990s New York City. I think that sounds awesome. Very different from Aronofsky's other works, and apparently it's described as like one of his most like uh commercial movies, I guess. So I feel like
Yeah.
it's not going to be so much like his others, which I love, but his movies very
Yeah.
much are of their own. So we'll see what that's all about. Nothing, I don't know anything else about it. And then Lynn Ramsey, who I've only ever seen one movie by, it was 2017's You Were Never Really Here with Joaquin Phoenix. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but she's got a movie coming out this year, and it's the first since that movie. So an 8-year break from directing.
Yeah.
It's called Die My Love, and it's got Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson, and
Okay.
it's described as in a remote a remote forgotten rural area, a mother struggles to maintain her sanity as she battles with psychosis. So it just sounds like it'll be
Oh,
very like remote and cerebral and frightening. And
sounds like a
it's
big
got
role for
Jennifer
Jennifer
Lawrence.
Lawrence.
Yeah, Nick Nolte's in it too. Yeah, so really excited to see what that brings. And I didn't know about that till a few days ago when I was researching for this
But this,
episode, and I was like, oh, I'm going to
yeah,
throw that on my list. So yeah, a lot of
yeah,
exciting things to come from 2025.
yeah. And those all sound really great. There was one movie I almost put on the list. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna say I'm looking forward to it. I'm just gonna say I see it and it's good. I'll be okay with it. It was the Jurassic World sequel that's coming out because like I like the idea of
I
like
forgot about that.
the original screenwriter being back from Jurassic Park. Scarlett Johansson is a good
Yep,
addition, right? Jonathan Bailey, who's just in Wicked, he's in it. It's Mahershala Ali's in it. There's so,
it's
and
rated
then like
R, is it not? Too.
I think they're going for that, but like we'll see. And then Gareth Edwards is directing it, so there's a lot of like positives there, but also that franchise has been run to the ground. So I didn't know how to like. I didn't feel good about putting it in the list because I was like been burned by the last couple of them, I guess. So I'll hope for
Yeah,
the best if it turns out good. But there is so much like good things behind it though that may all right, they could do something different with it and like uh probably exciting. I hope they do something different with it because like that idea has been we've seen so much from it already that I don't know if it could do anything really different with it. But I do like the talent involved, so that encourages me. But I didn't quite want to put it on the list.
fair enough.
I'll just have a smile on my face if it turns out decent.
I'm with you. I got a huge soft spot for the Jurassic movies. I love the original, and then I have a soft spot for the first Jurassic World movie. I haven't seen
Yeah.
the third one, like Dominion, because I just heard god awful things about it.
Ugh,
But if they can
fell
give
asleep.
a good scary dinosaur adventure movie and like Scarlett Johansson, Mahershala Ali, like I will
Yeah.
go see it. I'm
Yep.
that's a good addition to throw on there.
Yep. All right, guys. I think that's all. That's all of our
But
lists
yeah,
or
jam
our top
packed
10 of the
episode today.
year, and then our most anticipated. I guess you get to sign us off
Yeah.
this time.
I didn't verify before, but if my memory serves me, this is episode 219 of Back to the
That's
Blockbuster.
correct.
Am I right in that
Yep.
after doing Nosferatu yesterday? So stay tuned, guys. We got lots more coming into the new year for you. We've met and planned for the year, so we have lots of exciting stuff to bring you. Stay tuned for another upcoming episode where we recap the Golden Globes, which happened on Sunday, January the 5th. So that episode will be coming out soon, too. Check out our episode on Nosferatu. And there are 218 other fantastic episodes of the show that you guys can watch on any major podcast streaming platforms, including Playlists, which is our network. They give a lot of work into the show for us, and we love them very dearly. So check them out on their Studio Playlist app, available wherever on whatever device you guys have, whatever app store you guys choose. And yeah, thanks a lot, guys, for hammering out this list. It was great to recap 2024 and to delve into what 2025 has in store. Very excited to spend lots of time this year watching some movies and hanging out at the theater.
Yep, we're gonna have a lot to watch, probably a lot to complain about,
Yeah.
and probably so much news and movies to cover. And we are very excited for a very exciting 2025 Back to Blockbuster. And yeah, we will see you guys soon. Peace.
All right. Take care, guys.